Grand Rising, how is everyone doing? Welcome to Wednesday Night Live. Today is the 20th of November. We are on a positive timeline trajectory due to some events that took place within the last few weeks. Now, before I start today, there is a rumor, of course, it's being pushed by the fake news all over, social media as well, that Ukraine is going to be launching some sort of nuclear or some missiles over into Russia. And that is false information, guys. Don't buy into MSM, NBC, CBS. In fact, the entire news channels, all of them are all trying because they know that their time is up. So under the current Brandon administration, which they only have less than 2 months left, let's be real, they're going to try to do everything in their power to create the Third World War. Because if that happens by law, they need to implement executive, where the executive order becomes absolute and martial law, right? Which will override, Mr. T's election, and Brandon would stay president as a result of going into the Third World War. But I have news for you, my friends. It is not going to happen. It is not going to happen. Well, first of all, the Galactic Alliance, the positive ETs, already made it clear that this planet is not going into nuclear war. Okay, there won't be a Third World War. In fact, the Third World War has been fought on a information-based level, in a sense where we had, it's information warfare. Let's just be real. We've been in the Third World War through this concept of information warfare, right? On one side, you have digital warriors that have been, speaking the truth, waking up people. On the other side, you have the Mockingbird media that has been doing the opposite of that. So it is an information warfare, okay? And that is really the true meaning of the final war before we go into this New Earth reality timeline. So bear in mind that the Galactic Alliance will not allow for any nuclear devices to go on, any missiles to launch, none of that, okay? Secondly, as I stated in the Monday night White Hat report, the White Hats are working out a peace treaty, a global peace treaty deal, as I speak, involving Russia, Ukraine, Israel, and the Palestinian people, okay? Because those are the main four peoples, or the main four countries that are at the core of this probable Third World War, which is not going to happen. Okay, so right now as I speak, the White Hats are actually doing the opposite of the deep state. While the deep state is trying to do everything in their power to create one final scare event, right, which would give the deep state absolute power and control with martial law, the White Hats are doing the opposite of that. The White Hats are making sure that doesn't happen, but in fact that the peace treaty becomes implemented, because this peace treaty, which involved a phone call with Mr. T and Elon Musk about a week ago, I mentioned that in my last live, had a lot to do with convincing President, from Ukraine, the guy from Ukraine, I really don't want to say his name, that the deep state is no longer going to be financing him. And so he has no more resources, no more money for weapons, and technically no more support. Because once you take away the support that was coming from the Brandon administration from the Ukraine, well, guess what? They have no more ammunition. Therefore, it halts there. Okay. On the other hand, Mr. T and Elon Musk, not Elon Musk, but Mr. T and another person had a chance. Well, a group of generals, you could say, that are one of the 200 generals that are at the head of the alliance, had a chance to talk to Mr. Putin, because to our surprise, some of you already know this and some of you might not know this, but Mr. Putin is actually like Mr. T. He is a top player in the alliance, okay? So these generals and Mr. T finally had an opportunity to discuss a solution in ending the war with the Ukraine. And like I mentioned in my White Hat Monday update, the solution has a lot to do with the dissolvement and the neutralization of NATO, among other globalist agencies. Okay, so NATO is going to be forced to, resign. You could say they're being collapsed, right? They're being eliminated, which means that all the different European countries that were once part of the EU, the European Union, are about to taste freedom, national freedom for the first time, which is a good thing. Now, where am I getting at? Okay, where am I getting at? This is where all this is going. Sometime between now and the end of December, right? This whole, scare event that they want to push, this, third world war, might get to the point where they're going to be, firing up the sirens worldwide, where they're going to create a mass hysteria. All right, they're going to use all the media, and because this is their final straw. That's it. They're done with. So they're going to use all the media to try to convince the people that, that we are going to be entering the Third World War within the next 48 hours. Okay. They're going to be displaying on the media something that they have already filmed on a big Hollywood stage, which is going to be misinformation, fake pictures, and fake footage, right? Just like they filmed the landing of the moon on a big Hollywood stage, right? The moon is not empty. When they really got there to the moon, it was full of extraterrestrial civilizations. Well, they're going to do it again. They're going to create scenes on a Hollywood stage that is going to show, they're going to use the mass media to show these scenes that these nuclear warheads are being launched. So when they show these scenes, it seems like the entire planet is going to go into panic mode, okay? So this is where we have to use our galactic Jedi superpowers, right, to override the collective consciousness of humanity when the media does that, when the media releases these false, footages that they're right now creating in Hollywood, okay? So when that happens, guys, the whole world is going to go into panic. And then as the whole world is going into panic, Mr. T and the White Hats, including the 200 generals and supported by Putin, they're going to actually be flipping everything over on the cabal, okay? So what's going to be happening is when that happens, within days, they are going to reveal the truth that the Mockingbird media was definitely lying to us. Secondly, they're going to tell the truth that this whole conflict between the president of the Ukraine and Mr. Putin is actually in the works of being solved, and that what they're seeing on national TV is not true. And third of all, as a result of putting a cease to end all conflicts, right, a geopolitical agreement that was signed by the White Hats, Putin, Trump, the prime minister of Israel, or the leader of Israel. And by the way, the White Hats had to actually, because he is a Zionist, he works with the Rothschilds, right? Let's just face it. The leader of Israel right now, the Israeli government is nothing to do with the Israeli people. Those guys are Zionists. They're part of like the Khazarian, globalist groups, okay? So what happened was the White Hats actually held the leader of Israel at gunpoint in order to make him sign this cease treaty. I guess the name of it is I forget the name of it, but the whole point is that it's a treaty that was forced to be signed by that leader, the leader of the Palestinian government, in order to stop the conflict in the Middle East. Okay, so that was something that was actually done in the last week and a half, which is a good thing. So everything that we're listening to in the media is actually the opposite of that, right? They're spinning the lies once again as an attempt to create mass hysteria, because the truth of the matter is that there will be no world war, okay? There will be releasing nuclear weapons and missiles going back and forth. That is not going to happen, all right, guys? I forgot to mention an event. I always start my lives with a particular event that actually took place on the 20th of November. So let's see if I have access to that event. All right, so on this very day in the year 1910, the Mexican Revolution launched by Francisco Madero. Well, on this day, Francisco Madero launched a failed revolt that nonetheless sparked the Mexican Revolution by inspiring hope in such leaders as Pancho Villa and Emiliano Zapata, who then mobilized their raged armies, which again were successful in winning their liberties from the French. Okay, so that was an event that took place, right? Mexico wanted their independence from the French. Let's just face it, guys. At one point, it seems like all the countries here in the Americas were sought after by the European countries, right? And so, England always wanted to regain control of our government, and they did in 1861, right? When we went into Admiralty law, when the Constitution became USA Corporation. And then, in like manner, the French have always wanted to take over the Mexican region. So, yeah, it seems like all roads lead to the European Union and the revised, or may I call it the modern day Holy Roman Empire under a new name for those that read The Secret Government. So I just want to welcome everybody on the live. Thank you guys so much for being here. For those that are new to my channel, don't forget to like and subscribe. And also, for those that don't know me, I am the author of those books, The Secret Government, Invisible Architects, which reveals 6,000 years of Cabal activity and 6,000 years of White Hat activity. So yeah, this is an ancient war, guys. This is just something that we've been fighting in the last few hundred years. This is literally an ancient war that was translated from other worlds, okay? If you want to be technical here. And all you got to do is read our cosmic origin and find out that this was an ancient war that at one point involved the entire galaxy and universe. So I'm also the author of Our Cosmic Origin, a book that restores galactic history and Earth's place in the grand organization of the cosmos. And so, yeah, that's who I am for those that are new. And I always like to introduce myself to the new people because I'm getting about a few hundred new people a day. My channel is growing gradually, thanks to you guys. I appreciate that. Deep gratitude to all the Galactic Jedis out there. And yeah, so that's why I always have to introduce myself to those new few hundred people that are always going to be on the next show. Thank you so much for being here. So, word of advice, guys, is that when the Mockingbird media decides to spill their lies with this, false footage that they're actually already creating in a Hollywood setting, you guys are going to be ahead of everyone. You guys are going to be able to tell all your family and friends, even those that are unawakened, that this is just a massive scare tactic. Okay, this is just a massive scare tactic. Do not buy into it. And people already are. I mean, today at the gym, I overheard two guys talking about how this is it, man. If Ukraine launches those missiles to Russia, Putin isn't going to hold back. He's going to be launching, 100 times as worse. Okay, perhaps even a nuclear weapon. And so when I overheard that conversation at the gym, I thought to myself, my God, apparently these people are unawakened. So they have no clue of what's really happening, right? So I'm letting you guys know that this is going to escalate. They're going to make it seem, they're going to show footage again of airstrikes going from country to country, and then they're going to show, the destruction, the end result of where they land, but it's all going to be filmed on a Hollywood stage, okay? Yeah, that's something to be aware of, guys. It's not going to be real, okay? Now, I do want to address one of the questions, as I always check the comments, and I always read the live chat 2 hours prior into doing my lives. So I do want to address one of the questions that one of the Galactic Jedis had, and this question was, what is the difference between higher dimensional realities and consciousness, or higher consciousness? I think it was something to the effect of that. Well, they go hand in hand. The more you raise your consciousness, right, through the vibrational frequency, the more you're going to be able to have access to higher dimensional realities. Okay, we do exist in multiple realities. There are an infinite amount of realms. You could say densities, dimensions. I mean, the way they're all broken down is by frequency and vibration. But consciousness moves either in an upward spiral, which is an ascent, or it descends in a downward spiral. Okay, it doesn't go right to left. Consciousness could only go up and down. Okay, to give you guys an example, when the celestials, a group of celestials, let's just call them, rebellious angels, right? Like Lucifer and 1/3 of the angels that rebelled against Prime Creator Source, were part of a what? They fell in consciousness, right? They went from the 12th dimension over into the 8th dimension where they settled in Regal and created the reptilian race, right? Or manifested as a reptilian race. And then they went from the 8th dimension all the way to the 5th dimension where they ended up in Alpha Draconis. And then from the 5th dimension, they ended up on Earth where the last battle is taking place, okay? So that is called the descent, is when beings, by separating from the unity of all that is Prime Creator Source consciousness, cosmic consciousness, Buddha consciousness, there's so many names to describe that field of universal intelligence, cause them to pretty much fall from octave to octave, from frequency to frequency. And that explains the involution, which is the consciousness going down in matter, okay? The opposite of that is when consciousness is within matter, and by raising the vibrational frequency of the matter, by raising the consciousness through the vibrational frequency, little by little, you begin to ascend, okay? So, and then at the same time, in like manner, the matter becomes less dense until it becomes pure light again. So the ultimate end of our ascension is to become beings of pure light frequency vibration, which is something that began in the 12th dimension. So that is the difference, all right, between, I guess they're one and the same. There is no difference, right? The more you raise your vibrational frequency, which expands your consciousness, the more you are able to become less dense and evolve back to where you came from, which is where we all came from, by the way. We all come from above. We all come from above. And then another question was about the possible Third World War, which again, guys, it's the biggest, scare rumor. Let's just call it a scare rumor, conspiracy. I don't know if I should use that word, but it's not real, okay? It's counterintelligence, it's misinformation. It's actually the other way around. As I speak, things are actually going to be looking good for all these conflicts that are taking place worldwide due to this, global cease. I think it's called Cease of Fire Treaty. Cease of Fire Treaty. I think that is the actual name, but it is a treaty that was actually signed by the good guys. So with that in mind, I do want to welcome Joanna, who is in the house. I do want to welcome Anna Zamblet, that is in the house. I see Barbara Walker in the house, Joanna, Elizabeth Namaste is in the house, Andromeda Daisy, Jill Hunt, Radiant Guardians is in the house, Lee Star, MJF, Starlight, Ricky Lee 1111, Amanda Tempori, Wolfman is in the house, Sandra, Donna, Ricky Lee, and everyone else, EMT, Anthony. Where's Mathis Chronicles? What happened to Mathis Chronicles? I don't see him in the house. Oh, is that him? Did I just see him? No, he's not in the house. All right. Well, hopefully he's, doing something productive and positive. All right. Yeah. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to go ahead and just look at the chat and answer any particular question that you guys want me to address. But please make sure that you guys write these questions in capital letters. Oh, so Mathis is here, confirms Elizabeth Namaste. Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, then I guess he is doing something productive. He's watching my live. Let's see. Sean, yes, I believe that was Sean who asked me that question in the live chat. He says, "You've made my day. Thank you for answering my question." You're welcome, Sean. You're welcome, brother. Ah, there's Mathis Chronicles. Hello, hello. Let's see. Haven't seen. Yeah, whatever happened to Tony Lopez? Tony Lopez was one of the first Galactic Jedis that was always on here when I first started broadcasting. Does anybody know what happened to Tony Lopez? Big shout out to him. Let's see. I am so confused about the Bible. Okay, well, this is a good common question that most people have. Well, let me see if I could rewind it without closing my live. I don't want to do that. I'm so confused about the Bible. Will the true stories all be revealed? This is a question from Michelle Midi Avila. Media Avila. To answer your question is the 711 books that were left out of the Bible were actually hidden within the Vatican vaults. And in the last, I'd say within the last 2.5 years, those books were actually recovered by the Earth Alliance. So those books are going to be republished at a mass rate where they're going to give everybody the opportunity to read those books because of the fact that when they start releasing the truth about our history, the truth about the different realities, the truth about advanced interdimensional extraterrestrial civilizations that exist in the planet, in the oceans, on pocket realities, a lot of people are going to be wanting the evidence. They're going to say, well, where's all that in the Bible? Okay, so like I mentioned in the last White Hat update report, the biggest, you could say the biggest setback when it comes to revealing, the extraterrestrial phenomena and the connection to the other dimensions is really going to cause a lot of fundamentalist religious people to really not accept it. Not accept it. It's going to be hard for them to digest it. So what the White Hats are going to do is they're actually going to be republishing and not republishing, but producing in mass numbers the 711 books that were left out of the Bible, where all of this information that talked about exactly what's happening now in great detail, including the Book of Q and much more, clues and validation regarding advanced alien technologies, how they created the pyramids, not only on land, but in the oceans. Did you guys know that there are also pyramids in the oceans? So when all this stuff comes out, those 711 books, which are going to be mass produced for the general public, is going to give people those that are newly awakened. There's going to be a critical mass awakening process sometime in 2025. That's a given, guys. Mr. T1. So that's a given. So when that happens, they're going to be releasing all this information that should hopefully help the fundamentalist religious people understand the bigger picture. Because they're just because people are stuck in a box of a limited belief system does not mean that they're not our brother and sister. They're also our brother and sister. They just need to understand the bigger picture, right? So yeah, that's going to also be happening in 2025. I can't wait to read some of those left out books from the Bible. That's going to be awesome. All right, well, this is another good question. This is coming from Kimmy Kinseth. She says, heard clones were not going to be disclosed as many details. I don't know what you mean by that, but if you're referring to the idea that they're not going to be releasing or disclosing the truth about the clones, all the, the soulless NPCs and puppets that were kind of, played or, controlled by the higher ones, that is not true. They will be releasing those files as well. They will be disclosing the truth about the cloning facilities, the truth about the different hybrids and chimeras that they built, the non-human hybrids, the human alien hybrids. I mean, all that stuff is scheduled to come out because it's been prophesied about, guys. It's been prophesied about. Think about it. The real meaning of apocalypse, I think I've said this before and I'll say it again because I have a lot of new people that are on here now, is not the end of the world, okay? It is about revealing something, a massive amount of information that has been kept from the public or masses for thousands of years. That's what the true meaning of apocalypse is. It is a revelation, rather, a pouring of all kinds of information, right, that is going to speed up human consciousness as a collective, preparing people to shift into the fourth D Earth, for the star seeds, fifth D Earth, and sixth D Earth and above. Let's see. Yes, this is a good reminder from Jill Hunt. She says, believe in yourself. Trust in the process. Be strong, fearless warriors. We got this. That's right. Very, very true. Thank you, Jill Hunt, for that reminder. All right, this is another good question, and I don't think I've ever answered this person's question. Welcome, Galactic Jedi Shani Gurevich. She says, "My relatives are in Israel. When will cleanup finish, and it will be safe to travel there?" That is a good question. Okay, so um, I would have to say that if you guys are planning on going to Israel for the holidays, you could, like I said, nothing's going to be happening, nothing of major occurrences. Okay. Like I said, the ceasefire agreement, the ceasefire agreement was actually signed recently. So I would say, yes, it's okay to go to Israel. Um, Things are now going to be looking like the media is telling us. Okay. That's false information. So yeah, go ahead and go to Israel if you want to go to Israel. But yeah, the cleanup is happening. Definitely, there is a huge, massive, cleaning up of the deep state that runs Israel, commonly known as, the Zionist. Weird way of pronouncing it, but I don't, want to say I don't want to trigger the algorithm. But the whole point is this: all the tentacles. Okay, I want you guys to consider or think of the deep state as an octopus with many arms and tentacles. Okay, so the Khazarians are one arm. All right, the Zionists are another arm. Okay, the Bilderberg Group is another arm. The Trilateral Commission is another arm. The European Union is another arm. NATO is another arm. These are all different arms or tentacles that are all controlled by a core of, or that have been controlled, but those people have been arrested by what used to be known as the Octagon Group. The Octagon Group, okay? The Octagon Group is pretty much a conglomeration of super states, high-level corporate, you could say CEOs, including members of BlackRock and Vanguard, that are literally have been working with off-world entities, negative ones of that matter. Okay, so that is known as the Octagon Group. The Octagon Group came into power when the absolute power of the Church, of the Roman Catholic Church, was over, and that power, that torch, shifted over into the technocrats that have been the Octagon Group. Okay, but as I speak right now, the Octagon Group is also being dismantled from the highest escalons all the way down. Okay, which is a good thing. Okay, because that includes the end of BlackRock and Vanguard and all these other tentacles that have been connected to the what I call in my book the system of the beast, the system of the reptilian, rule of the planet. Many names to describe it, but their time is up. All right, so let's answer another question. So good to hear this time. Where is a false flag? No, it's not going to be a false flag. It's going to be a scare type of alarm. They're going to alarm everyone. The mass media is going to be showing false footage created in a Hollywood setting, just like the landing of the moon was created in a Hollywood setting. And they're going to use that to create as much fear as possible, right? Showing, rockets launching, rockets landing, huge disasters happening as a result of that. But that's not really going to be happening. Okay. So it's going to be false, footage, false reality. So it's not going to be a scary event. I guess you could call it a scary event, but not to the effect where, there's going to be massive casualties. I guess that's the best way to describe it. It's going to be more of the cabal's final attempt to steer the direction of the collective mass consciousness, to steer the direction of the collective mass consciousness, which again we could counteract, because it's been proven that when you have a bunch of people thinking together, meditating together, focusing their attention on the positive timeline, on world peace and all that, then what that does is, because we have a higher frequency than the unawakened, we literally counteract and neutralize the massive collective thought process that was forming. Hopefully that makes sense. So we, as older souls, have the ability to counteract the collective mass consciousness, because there's over 70 of us 70 million strong old souls in human avatars. So I do have some more super chats. Thank you, Ricky1111, for that super chat. He says, Ishmael, how did the reptilians infiltrate Atlantis? That is a very good question. If we are at a fifth dimensional level and they supposedly cannot survive at that higher frequency, well, what ended up happening, my friend, is that the reptilians were already using artificial intelligence. They were already involving themselves with cybernetics, and nanotech and mechanical upgrades. And so what they did is they used technology, external AI technology, to infiltrate the fifth dimension of Atlantis. So they had to do it, they had to cheat, in other words. But yes, you're right. The reptilians that originated in the eighth dimension have been, neutralized, not neutralized, but have been brought down, where they no longer have access to these higher realities, all the way down to the fourth dimension. So during the times of Atlantis, they were actually using technology to affect and do operations within the fifth dimension when they were already operating from the fourth dimension, biologically speaking. So due to the fact that everything is vibrating, right? Everybody's bodies are vibrating. Their bodies fell in such a low vibrational frequency when they started incorporating, again, artificial intelligence, to the point where they dropped all the way to the fourth dimension. So they had to use advanced AI technology to pretty much create a mechanical avatar in the fifth dimensional level of reality. And that's how they did it. So one of the things that I will be revealing in my next book to come, hopefully within the next 6 months, it takes time to write a book. Again, one book took me 3 years to write. That's The Secret Government. Our Cosmic Origin, on the other hand, took me 10 years because, I only wrote when I felt inspired. I would put the manuscript away, and then I would bring it back out after 6 months or so, and then I would put it away for a few months, but anyways. So this book is kind of like our Cosmic Origin. I've been working on it for a few years, but there's times where I put it away because I have so much going, and then there's times when I bring it back out. So as I was saying, what ended up happening is, as I'm going to be talking about my next book, is that there was an intergalactic computer network that was already set into motion, that was kind of locked into our solar system about 300,000 years ago. And a lot of this has to do with what Enki did. Again, this is a lot of information that was left out from the Zachariah Sitchin's translations of the ancient Sumerian tablets. But according to the galactic records, the Sumerian tablets are different, all right? The stories are totally different, okay? Which I believe are more valuable and more validated or more supported by the truth than, of course, the inverted Sumerian tablets that were tampered with. So the whole point is this, is that they were already working with artificial intelligence. In fact, the reason Atlantis fell is because they wanted to incorporate what they're trying to do here now during the times of Atlantis. They were going to push transhumanism on the Atlanteans. And so a lot of that had to do with Marduk, the son of Enki Poseidon, okay, Poseidon to the Greeks, Enki to the Sumerians, same deity or same god, who was really not a god. He was an Anunnaki, let's just be real. And so they were already using advanced artificial intelligence technology. And that is the reason why Atlantis fell. It was because of this intergalactic computer network that completely intercepted the Atlantean grid system by infusing the morphogenetic fields that was holding up together the construct of Atlantis with reversal codings. And these reversal codings were programmable by artificial intelligence to drop the frequency, and that's what led to the destruction of Atlantis. So everything dropped in frequency into a lower octave, and that's how we ended up in the third dimension. Not to mention, Enki, the master geneticist, was able to also create an equivalent avatar that would allow us to express or be kind of locked when we go in. As we went into the third dimension, he created an avatar, a slave body, right, that became very limited, right, that was just operating right above the primates, right above the Cro-Magnon and the different simian, primitive stocks that existed in Africa, in order to keep us controlled. Okay, so we went from this full conscious 12-strand DNA, human that lived for thousands and thousands of years, that was super psychic, that was connected to source, that had a direct connection to God, the elements, and all of creation. And we literally fell, or at least our group did, fell into a third dimensional avatar that had lost its connection to everything. And then, of course, that's why they eventually created religion. They created religion as a way to, be worshipped by their new created slave race. So that's why Atlantis fell. It was because of this AI, intergalactic computer network, that came to us from Orion, brought to us by the reptilians that were working with Enki's side of his mother's side of the family, because his mother was the queen of the Draco. For those that haven't read our Cosmic Origin, Saqqara, Sitchin, and the Sumerian tablets have been inverted and heavily modified. Okay, according to the real records, it was Enki who had a reptilian draconian mother. Okay, so he was the bastard son, right? He was never supposed to be the son of Anu. Okay, but that happened because she seduced him. Draman, the mother of Enki, seduced Anu, and so Anu, fell for that, and that's how Enki happened. And then the mother of Enlil, Sus, was actually the queen of Alcyone. She was the queen of the Pleiadians, descended from the original houses of Lyra. So this is where we get the concept of the holy bloodline that now we call the lineage of King David, or the Holy Grail. See how this Holy Grail is also traceable off-world? Anyways, all right. So I think I answered, and I gave too much. I answered it with a lot of more information. How's that? Let's see. Ani Oakley, thank you so much for your super chat. And your question is, hi Ishmael, why are they still cloud seeding and pushing those things in the sky? Well, because they only have less than 2 months left. And so this is their final attempt to also block the light codes that are coming in from the solar flares, the CMEs, that are currently activating our DNA. All right, so one of the things that the elites have known in the prophecies and the secret records is that at the end of the cycle, that the DNA that was suppressed, or you could say deactivated during Atlantean times, would once again be coded and reactivate, and that would produce a race of superhumans, likened to the gods of mythology, X-Men or Superman and stuff like that, like real superhumans. And so the elites have always feared that. Okay, so they're doing everything in their power to prevent the communication that is actually talking to our untapped potential, our sleeping codons, by the sun, in order to wake them up. So they're trying to block the communication signals from the sun that is literally mutating our DNA at a cellular level. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so they think that by covering the light rays, right, which are embedded with light codes from coming in, they think that they're going to prevent this prophecy from taking place, right? This real prophecy that only the secret societies had access to. They call it the return of the gods and goddesses, but not from the sky this time, but from the already existing human race through the activation of dormant DNA. So yeah, man, that's one of the prophecies, guys, that they actually talked about in the book of Q as well, and in other of the 711 books. And a lot of those books say the same thing. They talk like even the book of Enoch. The book of Enoch, the reason it was heavily suppressed is because it talked about the Nephilim. It talked about the hybrid race that was produced between the intermixing between fallen Anunnaki and Earth Maiden, of course, that gave us these giants that were hideous. And they also talk about the immortals, the Niburians. Let's just call them Niburians because the Anunnaki come from planet Nibiru. And then they also talk about the time where all of these beings coexisted at the same time with the race of men. You have men, you had fallen angels, giants, and you had immortals. Okay, so that's the reason why they left out the keys of the book of Enoch and other books that were really revealing. Okay, so let's continue here. I do have another super chat. Thank you, Indigo Star 888. He says, "Hi Ishmael, will the wicked who are held at Gitmo camp be eliminated by the Red Hats, or will the upcoming Solar Flash eliminate them all?" That is a good question. I would say if they don't get eliminated by one, they will definitely get eliminated by the other. Like I mentioned this last Monday, the Red Hats and the White Hats have decided to merge. They came to certain agreements, all right? There are certain people within the Cabal networks that don't deserve a trial. They deserve to be immediately, right? Like Dr. Doom and the Big G, right? ATS. And then there are people within the Cabal network, like those that are MK Ultra, the gangs from El Salvador and other parts of the world that are like sleeper cells. They're going for them, they're going to be going to trial, but at the same time, they're going to be rehospitalized. They're going to be fixed. In other words, they're going to be using a type of technology that would completely dissolve and dismantle the effect of the MK Ultra. So they're going to be what's the word I'm looking for? Rehospitalized, not rehospitalized, recuperated. I can't even think of that word. Rehabilitated. That's the word. Rehabilitated. They're going to be restored, right? And then they're going to be giving, obviously, a new, hopefully a different chance. Once they're no longer under my control, they're going to be giving the opportunity to be, you could say, productive members of the world. Okay, because that's all they want. They want people that are not going to be bad. They want people that are going to be able to live in harmony with one another. So I would say if the Red Hats don't eliminate the people that are already there are certain people that they agreed on that are going to be just right away, right? And then there are certain people that need to be judged. That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, there's been a huge mergence between Red Hats and White Hats. That's for sure. Stuart Williams, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, "What happened to the Aztecs and the Mayans? And how far is our calendar to theirs?" That is a very good question. Well, the origin of the Aztecs and Mayans actually originated with even an ancient or a more ancient, group of indigenous Mesoamericans known as the Olmecs. Some people believe that the Olmecs actually traveled from Africa because the Olmecs have very similar features to the African tribes. So the Olmecs, you could say that the Aztecs are the descendants of the Olmecs, okay? However, the Mayans and the Aztecs are two different indigenous tribes. The Mayans, my friends, originated in the Maya star system, which is the second star system, or third, I believe, revolving around the central sun of the Pleiades. So they came and established a colony during the times of Atlantis. So the Mayan colony actually coexisted with the Atlantean colony for about 200,000 years, where they lived in peace. 300, 400,000 years ago, before the dawn of the Anunnaki. And so the Mayans are actually an ancient advanced civilization that came to us from the Pleiades. They colonized the Mesoamerican region, which is what we call today Mexico and Central America. But they also survived in the inner earth during the cataclysm of Atlantis. And then they came back to the surface after the cataclysm of Atlantis to once again start their surface civilization. The Mayans were so spiritual that they managed to actually ascend as a race, as a human collective race. They were able to go together into a fifth dimensional earth reality. So to the Western world, to theologians, to the average human, they would appear to disappear. I mean, they would seem to disappear, right? They just vanquished, they just vanished. But to the initiate, to the mystic, to the spiritualist, they see that they have ascended, that they actually ascended into a higher dimension where they are still existing, but in a fifth dimensional earth reality, where we are going to be going to also very, very soon. So that's what happened to the Mayans. Now, the Aztecs, I believe, due to their wickedness, because the Aztecs were also influenced by the serpent plum god known as Quetzalcoatl. And Quetzalcoatl, for those that, again, have done their research of ancient history, is also Thoth. Thoth, the Egyptian god that supposedly wrote the Emerald Tablets and all these other works, was the Quetzalcoatl serpent or plump serpent that the Aztecs used to worship. Now, the problem with that is that under Quetzalcoatl, the Aztecs began to sacrifice humans, okay, which was very, again, they were doing it for the reptilians, right? Thoth was actually using that in order to sacrifice humans for their reptilian overlords. So that's another indicator that the descendants of Enki Poseidon have always been wicked. Because guess what? Quetzalcoatl, the plump serpent, also known as Thoth, was also a son of Enki. That's right. Thoth and Marduk were brothers with a different mother. There you go. See how all roads lead to the Anunnaki? Very good question. Yes, that is correct. Our brother here is asking me, oh, let's see, where's that question? This is a question from Edward Kasarjan. He's asking, Ishmael, brother, is Amun-Ra Marduk, which is Marduk. Oh, by the way, there's a difference between the original sun god Ra, the sun god of Egypt, the Aton, the one, and Amun-Ra. Okay, Amun-Ra was Marduk taking over Egypt during the first Pyramidal War, and so he changed his name to Amun-Ra. Okay, but Amun-Ra and Ra are not the same thing. Okay, those are two different entities. The original Ra, our sun, which is another name for Helios, is our sun. Amun-Ra is Marduk. That is the difference. Okay, just to throw it out there. So the second part of your question is Marduk the father of Nabu? Thank you, brother. Yes, I guess you have read my book, The Secret Government. So yes, Marduk is the father of Nabu. And Nabu is the person who actually impregnated a human. Nabu was also reptilian Anunnaki, son of Marduk, by another reptilian royal queen. And he's the one who impregnated a Babylonian human, one of the Canaanites, that gave birth to Nimrod. So that's why Nimrod was a demigod, right? The Bible called Nimrod mighty man, the man of mighty man. Yeah, I think they call him the mighty man. And then I think somebody wrote a book about him putting on the cloak of the Illuminati. In other words, he was like a super genius, right? He was developing, well, metaphorically speaking, he was developing something that was going to reach the gods in the heavens, okay? But quite frankly, what he was doing is he was creating advanced secret space programs so that he could go up to Nibiru as well and give that technology to his people and eventually the world. But we weren't ready for that technology, guys. We weren't. Trust me. We had recently had to start all over after losing almost complete consciousness when Enki reduced most of the human population into savages, and then we had to start all over from tribes into hunter gatherers into tribes, from tribes into groups, nations, and then from nations into what we are today. All right, here's another question from Ifontin. Is that your name, Ifontin? That's a pretty cool name. Let's see. Your question is. Oh no, it's Ifotoni. I didn't even see the I at the end. Ifotoni. Ifotoni, welcome. He says Photon here. Oh, so it's just Photon. So that I is not supposed to be there? I'm just going to call you Photon, Galactic Jedi Photon. He says, reading our cosmic origin, I heard there's going to be a major wave of light to wash over the planet this December 12th. Well, word is that the original Mayan calendar is actually 2024. So, and the way everything's heading into some sort of, fear porn scare event about the Third World War and when Trump comes back into office. I mean, anything could happen. But all I know is that it's not going to be something to the effect where there's going to be mass casualties, right? Not a lot of people are going to be. In fact, no one's going to be dying, guys. Okay, the only people that are going to be dying are the wicked, right? The only people that are going to be taken out are the bad people, pretty much. All right, so Hope is Real. Thank you so much for the super chat. She says, Ishmael, you missed my chat. Also had vision of tall 12 to 18 feet tall black color Egyptians. Okay, they were probably extraterrestrials, because remember, the original founders of the original dynasty also goes back to about 100,000, 150,000 years ago. They coexisted with Atlantis, right? But back then it was known as Hyptia, ancient Hyptia. We call it Egypt because of our English language, but it used to be pronounced, or it used to be called Hyptia. Hyptia. So the original Hyptia was actually established by the beings of Orion. All right, so that's the beings that come from the star system of Mintaka, Al-Nalim, and Al-Nilak, which happen to be the three stars that the Great Pyramids in Egypt are aligned to. Okay, so that's the indicator where they come from, right? They kind of marked, or pinpointed at their home planet by aligning the stars to them. They just gave it away. So those were known as the Naturu. Okay, so you're probably having visions of the Naturu. That's what I think is happening. Hope is for real. But I don't see any other super chat. Let me rewind, Hope. Yeah, Hope, I don't think there's another super chat. I don't see it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and continue. If you want to type in your question again, your original first question, Hope, go ahead. I'm going to look out for it. When can we start seeing the use of the med beds? That is a question that a lot of people keep asking, and I'm going to just let you guys know again. I don't know the date or the time or the hour. Okay, all I know is that they're already being put in major hospitals all throughout the country. Okay, and I also heard that now they're starting to put them in hospitals in some of the European countries. And of course, I didn't mention this before, but I'll mention it now. In Russia, Mr. Putin and others, especially those that are associated with him, and a huge population now, have already started using it. All right, so the med beds are already being used in Russia, so that's a good thing. But yeah, they're scheduled to come out here very, very soon as well. They just needed Trump to come back to power. That's it. All right, so this is another question. What is happening with Zimban? The Zimban. All right, the dollar from, not a dollar, but what is it called? It's from Zimbabwe. The Zim, in other words. Well, the SIM is part of the BRICS. It's part of the Gesera new quantum. It's going to be connected, in other words, to the quantum financial system. So they are part of the new currency. So if you guys are investing in Zimbabwe, I would say that's a very smart thing to do. Okay. Not to mention XRP. I'm not a financial advisor, but what I do know is that XRP is plummeting. And again, XRP will be supported by the QFS.